Okay, the situation is we've got in New Zealand and Wellington, everywhere, many millions of dollars being poured into replacing car parks with bikeways. Love it or hate it, agree or disagree with it, they are here and they're probably going to be here to stay. So there's no point in crying over spilled milk. If you don't like it, we might as well work with it to get the best out of it. And that's what this video is about. It's about maximizing demand to get the best out of these bikeways and hopefully to get more and more drivers out of their cars onto the bikeways, which effectively takes away the cost of losing all those car parks. Realistically, most demand, commuter demand, not super athletic cyclist, high-speed cyclist demand, but commuter demand, that's what we're after, is not going to be bicycles, it's going to be scooters. Scooters are far more comfortable and practical to use than bikes, generally speaking, and you don't turn yourself into a sweaty, sticky mess when you are going to work. Okay, so the question is, how do we optimize scooter demand? How do we get more and more people onto them so we can get the utility value out of these bikeways? Right, well, that's a standard scooter that we got there. That's the one I have. I've been using it for about a year, so I'm experienced enough on my scooter to know what does and doesn't matter, at least for me as an example case. And I'll just go forward here. That's the front of the scooter. Now, what I can tell you is missing with scooters, or what will be hugely appreciated and very practical, is simply a standardized stand like that. So if we could have these everywhere, which are just a stand that the scooter locks onto immediately, which is totally stable, that would in itself be hugely valuable. Okay, we'll just close up on that stand. Right, but it shouldn't be just a stand, it should also be a charging station. So with a metal rod that goes through the front wheel, the middle of the front wheel, when you lock onto your stand, which is in purple obviously, it will automatically start charging. So it does two functions, holds it and charges it. It'll be very convenient. And that stand type structure should also come with what you can buy privately, what you can have at home. Okay. Now look at that there. That's the front wheel of the scooter. It needs to be double the size. And we have to start thinking about what kind of a standardized front wheel we're going to have, because we're going to standardize the stands, presumably, in my model that I'm talking about. The big problem, the danger factor in these modern scooters is that the front wheel is so small that they're highly vulnerable to jamming. It only takes like 1 or 2 inches, maybe just 1 inch of a sharp burr on the ground, and whammo, you are head over heels. If you have double the size, double the diameter of the front wheel, that will dramatically reduce that risk, so it's not really relevant. What's more, having twice the size of the wheel is a smoother ride and more efficient ride as well. So you get more range out of your scooter for its battery. Another thing scooters should have, and again, I'm thinking about standardizing these stands so that they can ultimately apply to all manufacturers' scooters, is a biometric finger scan lock on and off. So no, it's not just a stand, the scooter stand that is, and a charging station. It should also be a lock point. And note, this is all about increasing convenience to increase demand. So you lock your scooter there just by pressing it, and that digital signal runs down the scooter and also communicates to the stand, and the stand automatically locks the scooter as well. So no one can run away with it. Now that is convenient. And note also, if we had this format, it would be very good for the hire market as well. Solves a lot of problems for them, keeping their scooters charged and locked and secured. Right, I believe that these scooters should not be allowed to go faster than 30 kilometers per hour. When you're going into those speeds, you're really getting into motorbike territory. If you lock it to just 30 kilometers per hour, then that means people can use them just like push bikes to the left of the road. So it keeps at a healthy speed with the traffic, not too fast, not too slow. Now a conventional scooter will cruise, while my one cruises, it speed locks at 25 kilometers per hour. That's a fairly good speed, but it has around about a 250 watt motor to do that, which is, comparatively speaking, very weak. I mean, it has no problem with speed on the flat, but as soon as it gets to a hill, it pretty much dies. So if you want to maintain 20 to 30 kilometers per hour up most hills, you really need to have more like a 1,000 watt motor. But that should be fine, although it should be speed controlled again, so it can't go over 30 kilometers per hour. And also, for the less skilled scooter rider, it's probably a good idea to also control the acceleration as well. So it's just like a backup power there to make sure it can push you along at 25 to 30 kilometers per hour under pretty much all conditions, no matter the hill and no matter the head-on wind. Again, it's all about creating a very practical scooter that everyone can rely on as a commuter device for shorter trips. Okay, so there's our scooter and its stand. Another thing you must have if you want to have everybody buying these scooters and using them is, of course, a carry area. So there you have the architecture, the framework, and supporting that, big canvas bags which have locks on them as well. One thing I've noticed with my experience with scooters is that they're very, very stable for carrying loads, so long as the loads are on that pole that goes up, because the loading, the weight, just goes straight down the axis and onto the wheel. You can barely even feel a load there. So you can take a whole lot of shopping, 40 kilograms, and you're absolutely fine. And another thing about having a bag there, which is lockable, is that you can just permanently leave helmet, gloves, knee pads if you want that, or a raincoat ready to go in case the weather turns bad. Okay, on safety, another thing I'd recommend is having a standardized high visibility jacket that all scooter riders have to wear. By making it compulsory, by making scooter riders all look the same and super visible, that means cars will recognize you in an instant. It becomes immediately obvious as a traffic light, so to speak. And really, that's the one thing which is so important in safety for anyone on two wheels, is you must be seen. No one is going to drive into you if they can see you. Okay, another thing I would like to see scooters have is cruise control. A very simple one touch button cruise control system. There you have it. 10 Ks, 15 Ks, 20, 25, 30. Choose your maximum speed and then just hit the charger, the accelerator, and it holds it there. That will be very practical and useful, and it will make scooters much easier to control and ride amongst people as well. So if you're on a footpath, which is also a scooter way, and you've got people around you, you just press number 10 and away you go. You're not going to scare any pedestrians or anything like that. And you're not going to accidentally go too fast. Lighting. Okay, back to the visibility thing. So there's a guy with the high-vis jacket, very poorly drawn, but you get my point. Another addition I would like to see to this, and this again is with my experience at night, is having a system where the lights actually flash directly on the guy's jacket, a high visibility jacket. This makes you super visible at night. Thing is, the problem with just having one light, even if it's a flashing light, is that it becomes abstract. It sort of gets lost in the Christmas tree, as I say, of night lights. If you've got just one light in your scooter, sure, they'll see the light, but they can't tell if it's 10 meters away or 100 meters away, because that's just the effect that it has. However, if you light up your high-vis vest, instantly drivers know exactly what they're looking at and how far away you are. Building that into the lighting system is easy. LEDs cost nothing nowadays, and they're extremely efficient and bright, as we all know. Okay, and another thing that I know that all scooter riders would love is fold out. There we go, on sort of rubbery plasticky sticks. Indicators, thank you very much, because it can be very tricky and very unsafe putting your hand out on a scooter. You can't do it. It's too dangerous. You've got to always have two hands on the handlebars. So nice big flashing LEDs on those sticks. That will cost nothing to install. Don't ask me why it doesn't already exist. It desperately needs to. And yeah, so let's see that as well, please. And finally, on lighting, take a look at this image. This is a classic here. The problem with bikes and scooters is that they're on the far left of the road, and so when a car approaches an intersection, it's very easy for them to not see you because they're in your blind spot. How do you get around that? How do you alert the driver, in spite of their blind spot, that you're coming? One way to do it, so there's your scooter there, but one way to do it is to have a flashing LED which is specifically engineered to target out the left. So it goes right into the side of the eye of the driver. It's like flash, 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 and he goes, oh, what's that? Turns around, oh, there's a scooter there. Okay, because that's a real vulnerability point. I myself will never ride in front of a car, even if I have the right of way, unless I've confirmed that he's seen me, unless I made eye contact. Otherwise, I'll slow right down and go behind the car. I do not care. Otherwise, it's only a matter of time till the guy bowls me, and that's just not going to happen. So again, a flashing LED there will throw another $2 on the cost of the vehicle, always going. I firmly recommend that in a standardized scooter. Okay, this is what we really want as well for safety. We want fast braking on a scooter. Scooters have standardized scooters like this have terrible braking because the brake is on the back wheel. And of course, when you're braking, all the traction goes down onto the front wheel. The reason why you don't have the brake on the front wheel, even though you would have so much more braking force, is because the short wheelbase means that it's highly vulnerable to just going head over heels. How do you get around that problem? Simple, you have ABS braking. This will throw another $200, $300 easy on the cost of the scooter, an electronic braking device which allows you to aggressively brake with all the force going on the front wheel, but pulls back on the braking through electronic control to make sure you don't skid the front wheel or go head over heels. It will be worth it. It will probably give you literally 3-4 times the braking power. Massive for safety. So for God's sake, do this. Why doesn't it already exist? I don't know. But again, what's $200-300 for something that's going to substitute your car 50% of the time for 10 to 20 years? It's peanuts. It's nothing. So for God's sake, invest in that safety. I would like to see that. And another curious addition is a central hard wheel, a bit like a skateboard wheel or a supermarket trolley wheel, which has very, very low rolling loss because it's a lot like a steel wheel. The small wheels of a scooter are high rolling loss because they're small. I'll spare you the lecture on why that's the case. But if you can put 80% of the load bearing, the weighting, on that central wheel right in the middle, then you would hugely increase your range, especially if you're cruising at about 25 to 30 kilometers per hour. It won't affect the braking safety because all the weight concentrates on the front wheel and heavy brake anyway, but it will interfere with traction going around tight corners. So it should be retractable. Ultimately, it should be on a springy sort of a connection and you should be able to retract it. But that option there will be a great little addition, I think, because it will simply serve to possibly double the range of a scooter without having to have a bigger battery. And that could be very good for many commuters. Right, another thing to improve the appeal of a scooter is a detachable standardized battery. What's the advantage of that? Well, if it's standardized, you can take it out of the scooter, because that of course is the battery is the most expensive component of it, but you can take the battery out of the scooter and put it in a vacuum cleaner, camping equipment, home workshop equipment, whatever, and it increases the utility and value of it, which should also help to improve uptake. And that's what we want. We want more and more people getting on the scooters to get on those scooterways. It's just a way of reducing, in effect, real costs. And finally, this could prove to be way more significant than scooters themselves. The scooterways should also be delivery ways. Now, the thing with these delivery bot cars, which already exist overseas, is that they can only travel at about 5 kilometers per hour. That's still very practical for a lot of stuff, but not really for hot food and other items. Well, if they're operating on a scooterway, then they can be operating at about 25 kilometers per hour. So all of a sudden, their value for delivering hot food and everything else goes through the roof if we can do that. So you could simply have them operating, following very, very close to a painted line on the road, on the bikeway, and away you go. Very easy, and that would be invaluable in itself. Going from 5k to 25 kilometers per hour, and they'll be, compared to a normal delivery, almost costless. They'll be very, very cheap to run. So there we go, peoples. I think that is the best way that we can get maximum utility out of the bikeways. Really, the heart of it is just standardizing that stand, as I talked about before, which also means we have to standardize the front wheel, which is why I had a close focus on that, and which should be twice the size of what they currently are, so that it can lock the bike, charge the bike, and support the bike. When I say bike, I mean scooter. That should be where our investment goes to justify all these bikeways. Thank you.